Some of you may not know me, so I'll just introduce myself very quickly. I'm a husband of one wife. I've been an eldership for about 11 years, but I've been banished to the colonies. So for the last 9 years, I've been serving in Yeovil, Klopper, and most recently Benoni. But my Far East Rand visa has expired, so shortly I'll be back here. So good morning, Cornerstone mighty men and the friends that you've invited. And I want to tell you, I may not have the score for you, but I'm going to give you the result later on. So that's quite important. So today is a very important day for us. In the suburb of St. Denis in Paris tonight, South Africa will become not only back-to-back Rugby World Cup champions, but will be the first nation that's won it 4 times. Absolutely. And so it's a big day for us. But this morning, I think what we want to address as the eldership here is something that's actually far more important than rugby. It is something that is not perishable. Sadly, rugby is perishable. Something that's going to live with us for everlasting. As we ask the question this morning, what has happened to the God identity that we as men got from God? What has happened to us as leaders, as fathers, as husbands in our family? You know, in Genesis 2, and I won't be long, God formed man from dust. And the Bible says he breathed into Adam's nostrils, and man became a living creature, and God gave us the Garden of Eden to look after. And we also read in verse 19 and 20 that the first job God gave us as men with a godly identity is to name all the animals. And if you can go back and if you can visualize this, I'm not sure if it's a pretty picture, but if you can visualize, there Adam is sitting on a rock in the full splendor of his nudity, sitting there naked, and he's calling the animals one by one with a godly identity and full of purpose and full of what God wants him to do. In Ephesians 5, the Bible tells us that as Jesus leads the church, we as men need to lead our families. We need to lead our children, and we need to lead our wives, and we've got to protect them. And when we look at the world today, it's actually sad that this doesn't happen. Last night, we had Welcome Dynamite, gave us a testimony, and whilst his dad was there, he felt that his dad abdicated. And because of Welcome growing up in a fatherless home, we heard last night his testimony of how he adapted to that and how it influenced his life. And Welcome is in fact quite fortunate. He's quite blessed because in America they've done a research last year and 25%, and actually a figure is something like 18.4 million children grow up without a father. South Africa, we're not always sure what our census will tell us, but in South Africa there's about 2.4 million, they tell us, and 2.5 million fatherless, and 9 million grow up without a father. And last night we heard about it. You know, as recently as Thursday, I had to go down to Cape Town and minister, or actually counsel, 2 of my senior staff. 20 years ago, they grew up without a father, and 20 years ago, this is still affecting them. Still affecting them. And sadly, this is not happening in business. It's happening in church as well. And we see this around us. You see, men have abdicated their God-given purpose. And my wife and I are blessed that we see a lot of people for pre-married counseling. And it's for me so sad that the young men actually feel that they don't want to take the leadership in a family. It's got to be a 50-50 thing. 50-50 is not what God wants. God has made us the leaders. And you see, the devil is using this worldly system to undermine our identity. And we see it all over. We see it in adverts. A few years ago, Kimberly Clark had an advert for Huggies where they depict the father as an absolute buffoon. And men in America said, we've had enough, and they did a legal case against them. And Casey had to withdraw that ad and actually make one where you show men that men can be good fathers. And we see this all over. We see this all over. And you see our daughters and our sons, we need role models. In fact, we need role models. My wife keeps on telling me that Siya Kolisi is such a role model, she doesn't know why he doesn't stand for president. But we need him as number 6 as well. But sadly, as we sit here this morning, I think some of us may have grown up in a home that is fatherless. Or it may be that it was a perception, like we heard Welcome say last night. And as we sit here today, they're still keeping us in captivity. They're still keeping us in captivity. So this morning, for me, it is such a privilege and a pleasure to introduce Jannie Du Plessis, a man that fulfills that role, a man that's a role model, a man that is only a bully in the dark places of the scrum, where he's allowed to be. So give Jannie a big Cornerstone welcome. Sit down, well. So as it's Rugby World Cup today, and we got Jannie, who's a veteran, still a young guy, of 3 Rugby World Cups, and 2007, Jannie, with Jake White, won the Rugby World Cup. So we've got incredible expertise, knowledge, and a great guy here. So we thought that before we unleash Jannie on you, which we'll do after a 30-minute break, we're going to use this opportunity to ask him a few questions about rugby. So that's part 1. And then we're going to have a short break, and then Jannie will give us his testimony, and he will tell us how this man has had to deal with lots of adversity in his life, but he's always gone to our Lord Jesus for that. A family man, a man that loves his family, loves his brother, who's also a Springbok. I don't know if you've heard Bismarck. Name sounds familiar, eh? Not as popular as Jannie, but he's there as well, you know. So Jannie, actually, what I saw last night is, I'm going to sit down. Can I just move this thing out of the way? Thank you. Thanks, JJ. See, he's a bully, eh? So, Jannie, the records tell us that you played SA schools. I think you had 4 tests. And for the Springboks, you've played 70 tests, but actually 74, because 4 were against, I think, barbarians and that sort of thing. Yeah. 155 Super Rugby games. Free State, Lions, and the Sharks. And Jannie, as I've always thought, I think there is still opportunity for you to have a complete CV if you go down to the Stormers for a year or so. Huh? You played provincial rugby 115 times, Lions, Cheetahs, and Sharks. And like old Ox, who's on the loose head, Jannie comes from the Free State, and he's also a graduate, he's a doctor, and like Ox he's got accounting, I think, a degree. And so we're going to ask Jannie a few questions. And we're going to start, I think today is so important. The Boks are playing in St. Denis at about 9 o'clock. It's an awesome stadium. I took my 16-year-old granddaughter to an Irish game, and I was scared. All the Irish there in the stadium, and when they start roaring, unbelievable. So, Jannie, what are the guys going through today? And it's a 9 o'clock start. How will it be different to your time?
Thank you very much for having me. It's really a big privilege. Thanks, Greg, and the team. The worship was really good. It was an incredible encouragement because I have to be honest, I was a bit scared to talk today. So much more scared than before a rugby game. The day of the World Cup final goes by very quickly. Like in France, you start at 9 o'clock because that is the most expensive TV time in their their way of doing things. So they play the game at 9 o'clock. And I remember for the quarter final against Fiji, I slept at a normal time. I tried to sleep at a normal time, but in South Africa, you played matches at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, or 7 o'clock in summer if you're in Durban, because it's like the humidity is too much during the day. So I used to wake up very early the day of the game. I have like a little dagboek. It's called My Utmost for His Highest. It's something that somebody wrote years ago, which funny enough is still applicable and still relevant today. So I got it for my 20th birthday at university, and that little book I carried with me throughout my whole career. And on every say it's like the 20th of October, I would read the 20th of October and then write the date. So 2005, I think the 22nd of October was the Currie Cup final. So in 20 years, that little book was actually quite good, because the same message 5 years later is very different. And then it also is I don't know if I want to say encouragement, but it also gives food for thought, because I mean, I wrote stuff there when I couldn't even make the first team side of the university, and we played against police. And then 10 years later, you're playing the Crusaders on the same day, but it's just later. So I used to stand up very early, say about 4:30, and I took time. I did my little Bible study and read this little book, and then had an early breakfast, and then I came back to spend time in the room, polish your boots or just sit there and start playing the game. So I did the same in the quarterfinal, but then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon you're really tired because you woke up 4 o'clock this morning. It's 12 hours later, but you're only playing at 9 o'clock at night. So that was a very big. You realize that you cannot always do the same thing. So on a day like this, you would try to stay up a bit later the night before, which is not very difficult because the sleep doesn't come easy before a World Cup final, and so that you can lay in a bit, and then you start your day, say at 10 o'clock. But if you start your day on the day of a final, it's actually it goes by very quickly. Typically, you will have a 12 o'clock forwards meeting, and there the forwards will tell each other how they're going to bugger up the opposition. Maybe we use different words in different environments. But they're the forwards, I think, very similar to today. You get together and you share word with each other. You say, listen, for instance, you'd go to Dwayne and say, listen, I feel that this is what you're going to do with Arie Savea, or you go to Frans Malherbe and say, listen, Ethan de Groot, I loved it when you pumped him and you were scrumming like that. So it's almost like just a reinforcement of what you've been working throughout the week. That takes about half an hour. Then the backs come and we have a little lunch. And the backs don't say anything, actually, to be honest. This is the honest truth. They
focus.
I don't know whether they focus it. They do look very good at the time, because I mean they're the guys that score the tries. And after the pre-match meal, that's actually when your mental preparation starts. You go back to the room, and different people do different things. So some people like to listen to music. I had a good teammate or roommate called Willem Alberts. We roomed together for 10 years at the Sharks and at the Box. So
Bone crusher.
yes. So I overstress. I really do. I've got a tendency to like become really nervous, and Willem is funny. He's really is funny. So what we used to do when the stress became too much, we watched the wooden mic, idols, and then we saw these guys sing, and they were good but not very good. But then so we laughed about that. And then we do that for half an hour, so just to break the ice. And then Willem, he smashes people. He can tackle. So then he liked to put on YouTube like big hits from anything, like NRL from the rugby league in Australia. And then you see this big hit, and he says, you know what? Today, whether Conrad Smith passes or not, I'm gonna cut him like that. And then, so you sort of, I'm going to cut him in half. So we used to like watch that and sort of, in a lighter, not in a very serious environment. And then 5 o'clock, you go for team meeting. Team meeting is the coach giving his last messages. Then you strap. And you get on the bus, because the bus trip to the north of Paris is more or less an hour and 10 minutes. And then when you get to the game, it's game time. Then you just wait for the kickoff.
Thanks, Jannie. Thanks for sharing that. And then, Jannie, you've played under, I think, about 5 coaches, is it? 5 or 6, actually? Springbok coaches?
5, yes.
5, yeah.
I've played
under Alistair Coetzee was one as well, yes. Yeah. And do they differ in the way they look at things and like the halftime, you know, I'm sadly, I don't want to admit it, I'm a big Man United supporter, and they say Ferguson used to come in there with what he called the hair dryer. He used to just shout and hair used to stand up. Is this how these guys do it?
No, every coach is different. And I think that's the wonderful thing that you learn from rugby. I think, and it's more or less similar, I think, in life. Everybody's got a strong point. So Jake was my first coach. He was the best planner I've ever had as a coach. So he would say, listen, we would lose against France. So we lost against France in 2006 at the end of the year tour. I think the score was 2017. And then he said, listen here, a year later from now, we're going to stand here. There's going to be the cup is going to be in the middle, and we're going to win it. And then you think, oh, is this like funny talk? But when the next season and the preparation starts, he says to you, to win the World Cup, we have the All Blacks test here. We play Australia there. We play these guys. England, I think, England came in for a 2-match. We played them in Bloemfontein and in Pretoria. And then he gives you like goals. He says, for us to win the World Cup, we've got to be here at that game or there at that game. So he was an incredible planner, and really, like, he's got this intuition that, and it happened like that. So he was the best planner that I ever had. After him was Peter de Villiers, and he was funny. But
62% strike rate. Eh?
Peter de Villiers is the coach that cared for the players the most that I've ever had in my life. And I think he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. You see, Peter de Villiers understood very well that this is a team sport, and unfortunately, because of politics and pressure and whatever, he was under pressure, and he wanted to succeed, and he knew that. Well, that's how he explained it to us later. At the time, we didn't understand that he's a man with such vision. He understood that we can only be successful if we're in it together. And I can honestly say, he's the coach that cared for the players more than any other coach I've ever had, even in provincial rugby. Just a little story about him. So my uncle committed suicide in 2010. Shot himself, and I did not ask to go to the funeral, because under Jake, I mean, he would almost like see it as I can't say weakness, but I mean it would be off limits.
Yeah.
I mean the week leading up to John Smith's 100th test. It was just after the Soccer World Cup. We played at Soccer City. Up until today, it's the most people that I've played in front of. It's not, there were 98,000 people at Soccer City. And I did not ask Peter de Villiers whether I could go for various reasons. I'll elaborate a little bit on that later. So I just kept on training, and then he overheard somebody talk about it at breakfast on the Tuesday, and he called me to his room, and I thought he's going to break the news that I'm not playing against the All Blacks on the weekend, because that's what coaches do. So it was. Now I'm thinking, yeah, my uncle is oorlede. I told my parents then I'm not even going to ask whether. So just tell the family I'm sorry I won't be there. And then he called me in and he said, "Listen, this is what I heard. Is it true?" I said yes. He says, "Okay." He goes to his room. The phone. He picks up the phone. He phones Anne Lee, who was our logistical manager. He says, "Listen, Anne Lee, Jannie's not going to be at training this afternoon. Book him a flight to Bloemfontein. Please make sure there's a car, because the funeral was in Hobhouse. I don't know even if you guys know where it is. It's close to Lesotho. Make sure there's a car, and the funeral's on Thursday, so he's not going to be here for the week. He's only going to be back at captain's practice." And he came back, and I said, "Coach, no, but I made plans. I mean, we've got to prepare." And then he turned around and he said, "You know what? There's some things that are more important in life." And as a player, that was quite special, because that weekend is the first time ever that I was man of the match for the Springboks.
Wow. Let's see. I think quite a few of the elders here, but Marcus, we went to that match. And obviously that's the sort of guy you want to die for, Jannie.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And then Heineke Meyer was a great motivator. So Heineke Meyer could chat you up. He could make you feel like you will run through a wall. And if you run through a brick wall, then he would say, "But can you do it through a steel wall?" And he did it. So he was a wonderful guy to get men to believe in each other and to be ready to almost die for each other. Heineke was unique in the way that he prepared, because his preparation was not as much tactical as getting the guys ready for war in your head. So yeah, every coach I've had was different in their own way, and that ability made them actually good enough to coach the Springboks.
Yeah. And Jannie, you, I think in your early days you played under Rassie. And I think you ever played with Rassie. Were you playing for Free State when Rassie put the robots on the?
I was. I played 2 seasons with Rassie as my captain. My first
as captain, okay.
Yeah, my first 2 seasons he was still playing. He was captain, and then also my first 5.5 years of rugby, he was my coach. So I think the point of difference that he has is his attention to detail is unparalleled. Whereas Peter de Villiers, for instance, he would not go into the technicality. He would leave that to the players. He would actually empower the players to take a bit of ownership. But with Rassie, I mean, a game we played against the Chiefs after we lost 4 games on tour. The Cheetahs, we lost 4 games on tour. We still had 5-week tours then, Super Rugby, and so we wanted to win the last game, and the preparation that to put it into perspective, like you've got 4-man lineouts, exit lineouts. That's like just in the 22. Then you got 6-man full line, and you've got 5-man lineout. So only the 5-man lineouts that we watched as a whole. Oh, and it's not like forwards watch on your own and backs watch on your own. There, everybody watches together. Only the 5-man lineouts was 176 that we had to go through for preparation. So his attention to detail is, I cannot tell you how in depth he analyzes things, and that technical prowess, I think, makes him unique. I think it makes him a step ahead of the others, and also I think that is also why he is a very innovative coach. He gets new ideas, because if you watch things over and over and over, you see different ways of doing things, and I think that to be honest, I think is his best attribute.
One of the great breakfasts I've ever had was with Nick Mallett one day, and he explained to me that even as a player, Rassie would come up to him with tactical moves. So, that guy's weakness, we should focus on.
Yes, and he coached the same way. He wanted players to question him. He very rarely used our advice, to be honest, because his way was 90% of the time better for various reasons. But he expected every single player in the team to come with suggestions and challenge him and ask, which was very different from what we were used to, because in a way, I mean, rugby is a unique sport where you have to show respect to the official, to the referee. You have to show respect in defeat, be gracious in defeat. So rugby is built on a few principles, and one is respect the senior players, respect your coach. So rugby in a way is many times, for instance, Jake it's more like a headmaster, and you don't really question him. You almost just follow his lead. Whereas Rassie was completely different. He even if you were 20 years old and it's your first season, he expected you to ask questions and demand explanations, because he felt like if you think about rugby at home, he's winning. He will ignite something in you that will also look for different solutions. So, I mean, when I started at the Springboks, this is what I had for 4 years, and then I asked questions for Jake and Gerrit Small, which led to quite a little bit of mouthing down. Jannie Du Plessis, who the flip do you think you are? just do it like I want. Yeah. So no, Rassie was different. He's just completely different.
And he seems to be an incredible canny to use opportunities to motivate people. I don't know if you've seen the clips for this week where Bongi's throwing in and Rassie is saying, "Nee, hierdie kant toe, daardie kant toe," using that to really promote and motivate the guys today.
He's got a very good sense of humor, and he does use. He's quite a practical joker. As a captain, he would. So if it's your first game, I remember for my first game, I put in my. So you go and you warm up, and then after we've got like a little team warm up, you start dressing up, and he cut the front part of my socks, like there where the knot is. So as I'm putting on my sock, and now it's my first game for the Free State, and of course he did it. So everybody's looking at how I'm gonna. And so mentally for me it was very difficult, because I had a few idiosyncrasies. So socks with no front, like it buggered up my mind. So now frantically I'm asking the guys that I know in the team, "Do you have a second pair?" "No, I don't have a second pair of boots." "Listen, Vian, can I?" Then, "Listen, where's a pair of socks?" No, everybody just... "Oh man, leave me alone." So now I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wat 'n moer gaan ek maak? And So I put this sock on with my foot like just here, and I fasten it. I mean, I don't go to the team manager because I mean you didn't talk to the team manager at the time, and I fasten it. And just as I was walking out to sort of do the field warm up, Helgard Miller starts bursting out laughing, and he said, "Listen, here's your socks." And Rassie sat there. He was number 8. He was the 8th man. He sat on the 8th seat, and he's sitting there. He's canning himself. So he is a very good practical joker, and I think if he does stuff like that, I think he doesn't really. I don't think there's much motivation in it more than the humor that he sees behind it. I think because he's successful, I think the world overanalyzes a little bit, but he would do stuff like that because of the humor, unless he feels that he feels aggrieved. I mean, I don't know if you remember that tackle from Owen Farrell on Andre Estreisen, and the next week he put a video up. That's a little bit more calculated, but most of the time he would do stuff like that just to make the guys laugh.
So Jannie, one more question about the match tonight, and then we want to just go into your history. But I was listening to John Curvin, not that I'm a fan of his. I think the wheel is turning, but the hamster's left. And he was saying that in the great rugby games that he has played in, the changes come in a couple of minutes. You know, there's like something special that happens, and you just know that this is the change in the game, and the opposition understands that this is a change. Would you agree with that? And if that is the case, what would be that moment tonight?
Well, if you look at last week in depth, I didn't watch it firsthand. I have to admit that 10 minutes into the second half, I went to wet the garden. My stomach was burning. I was just stressing so much. And then when I heard my kids cheer, I ran back and I saw the last 3 minutes and I cheered. So I actually watched the game after I knew we won. So thanks for that encouragement, Greg. We already won. If you look at the changes that Rassie made in the second half, so he brought up R.G. Snyman, Ox, and Kwagga a minute apart, and every time it was on an attacking line out from England. So normally what they do is they put 3 guys. I mean, if you want to change 3 guys, you normally put them up together and they run on together, and the 3 other guys come off. But we were under the pump then. We really were, and England played brilliantly. Credit to them. So on an attacking line out, he put up RG. Then they had to wait for Eben to slowly jog off and RG to jog on, and the referee to say start again. Then he did the same 1 minute and 20 seconds later with Ox, and he did it. So the changes now, I mean, rugby is the margins are so small that something like that, I believe, and that's what I saw. It bothered the rhythm. So England at the time was playing brilliantly. They took no chances. They were kicking accurately, and Owen Farrell was driving them well. And so to have 3 opportunities, because you don't have a lot of opportunities in test matches, to have 3 attacking opportunities, and every time you've got to wait a minute to start, I honestly believe that was not done. It wasn't by accident that happens. And the energy that those 3 guys brought almost lifted our intensity to England's level, so that we can turn the tide. Because for 60 minutes we were under the pump. We were struggling. Actually, for 68 minutes, we were up until the scrum that Ox got a penalty in the 22, where Kurt Lee knocked that kick through. We were feeling pressure, and those 3 guys, I believe, changed it, because after that penalty, we get field position, and sort of the tide started turning. So in a rugby game, there's a lot of ebbs and flows. And you do feel somebody who brings good energy. somebody who's good at being a replacement. I think Bismarck was brilliant at it. I think Willem Alberts can do it. I think Ollie Leroux is probably the guy that started it like 15 years ago, and almost like his mental preparation was to say have 4 messages when he comes on, to get 2 good carries in the first 2 minutes. So I think the guys that come on break down what their role is, and if you see Erge coming up, he looked for the ball and he carried quickly afterwards. If you see Kwagga, if he comes on, he goes for a ruck to try and steal a ball. So they almost like use the opportunity, almost in a way like chess, where my role is when I come on to encourage Bill and Greg and 4 other guys around me. This is the message I want to give to them, because I've been watching the game for 50 minutes or 40 minutes. I'm gonna steal the ball at this ruck because that guy is weak, and I'm gonna carry from this line out because I'm at the back and I'll be first out. And as a player that's on the field, you definitely feel the change in momentum and the change in intensity if a guy comes on and really like brings that energy.
So everything is sort of planned though.
Absolutely.
Strategy, eh? Yeah. Jannie, we've got a few photographs that we going to ask him to show us.
It's very weird to look at yourself.
The first one is Francois and his sons, and I'm sure later on you're going to tell us a bit more about that photo. But when did you realize that rugby, medicine, farming, do you and Bismarck still farm?
We still farm. That was on Bismarck's bachelor's, so luckily we got the picture early. Because a bit later Bismarck was blue like a Smurf. I painted him blue because blue is the only paint I could find. Anyway, I had a wonderful dad. I had a wonderful father. He was a kind man. He never put us under pressure. He of course loved rugby, and I think that's where our love was started. My grandfather started the club in Bethlehem, so my dad was very involved in the rugby club in Bethlehem. And if we could take a nap on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the day, which never happened, we could go to rugby practice in town with my dad. So I think that's where it started. And my dad never actually put pressure on us. I mean, if I think back at it, he never said, he never put us under pressure to perform, and he always encouraged us. And what he did say is, run your own race, make your own name. And I think something that I struggled with is to believe in yourself, to have belief. You're always scared that there's somebody better. Maybe he's going to take your place. And my dad, I remember many of his encouragement was, do believe in yourself. You give everything that you have, and that will be enough. I'd always say, maak jou eie naam. Nobody is the same. You can't. I'm not an Ollie Leroux. I'm not as explosive as him. I will never be able to do the stuff that he did. But there's other things that I can do. So yeah, my dad was a great encouragement. He was probably a bit of a frustration for my mom because he wasn't strict at all, and she was very strict. We're
going to ask you later on to tell us about the kuvertjie, when you speak later on. And Jannie, but Jannie, when the sort of short period I've got to know you, I think you're a kind guy, man. I know a lot of losers won't say that, but I think you're a kind man. You obviously take after your father. Jannie, when did you realize that this is what you want to do?
I actually never really had like a day where I decided I want to play rugby. I liked it. I loved it actually. I loved the team environment of a group getting together with a common goal and sacrificing their time for each other. I love that, and I still do. And I think that's why I love rugby. I think rugby is unique in the world that everybody depends on everybody. I mean, you can be Dan Carter, best 10 in the world, or Johnny Wilkinson. If your forwards are terrible and you don't get any ball from set piece, you will not win a game. So rugby is a sport for all body types. That's why I could play it. For all races, for all religions, for everybody's welcome in a team of rugby, and I really love that. I never planned to play it professionally, to be honest, up until the 2005 Currie Cup final, which we won against a very good Northern Transvaal Blue Bulls side. After that game, I realized that if you work hard, if as jy nederig bly, what's nederig? Humble. If you stay humble, if you work hard, and if you are in a team that everybody in the team is prepared to sacrifice more than what they expect, in the end you'll get more than what you give. Yeah. And that game actually changed my life, whereas before that game I played rugby because I loved it, to one day become a doctor. But after that game I realized that, listen, if I apply myself, I can make a career out of this, and that was like almost like a spark that ignited something that made me train exceptionally hard, and yeah, then the Lord blessed me with a career.
Unbelievable. We're running out of time, but we're going to squeeze 2 or 3 more minutes. Sure, okay. Can we, this is the next one. Our big day. I'm sure you're going to share that with us, your lovely wife. And Jannie, you really clean up nicely, man. Huh? Huh?
Well, actually, the fact that I got married was also a miracle. It really is. I think if you play rugby at a stage, whether you like it or not, you start liking what you do, and you start liking yourself a little bit too much, unfortunately. So Ronel's a bit older than me, and she was, of course, I think women are ready to get married at 18 years and 1 day. But she was ready to settle down before me, and I thank the Lord for a strong, independent wife, because when I was playing for the Sharks, I mean, play for a great team, live in Durban, like stay in a house with your brother. It's like stuff that you see on movies. Well, that was how I thought that you see on movies. It's just so settling down at 24. I did not have that desire. I wasn't ready. And then Ronel, unlike some other people, she said, "Well, you know what? I'm also not going to wait for you." So she kicked me under the bum and left for Ireland. So she worked in Ireland for 2 years.
Also a doctor, eh?
Yes. So 2 years later, she comes for holiday, and I come and I surprise her here. And we had a wonderful weekend. Very lekker gevry ook. Het was vrek lekker geweest. And then,
mooi meisie, hè?
And then flying back, it sort of hit me. She's going back to Ireland in 3 weeks' time, and I got like this fear, like, listen, I don't want it to go back. So now, after a very nice weekend, I'm thinking, listen, ek moet iets doen. She's not flying back. So I flew back the next weekend, and I said to her, listen, you're not going to Ireland. She says, no, I am going to Ireland. I'm not staying here for your pleasure or your entertainment. I mean, you've got to like, jy moet 'n bietjie vir my commitment gee, man. And so I did. Then I promised her, listen, I am really serious, and I got a ring made as quick as I can, and I asked her to get married, and 6 months later we were married. So yeah,
Awesome.
I thank the Lord every day for a strong, independent wife. What the picture doesn't show is in the Eastern Free State you get like these thunder showers. So 5 minutes after, that was that was after the rain, but so I was waiting there, honoring council, and she's fashionably late, half an hour, and then there's like this purple cloud that comes, which makes for great photos, but not for great weddings. And we were supposed to get married outside, but it started raining and it didn't stop. So everybody ran into a shed, a skaap stoer, and we got married in a stoer where everybody was standing next to each other with the roof dripping on you. It was quite a nice day.
Next one, please. Jannie, that's a bad photograph. You know, we as flyers have to stop those actually in a channel there. When you come through there, that's awesome. Next one. That is possibly the best front row you played in, I guess,
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, to play with Beast was not only is it an honor, but you see, if a team really cares for each other, and I think in an eldership or in a church, it's all the same. If guys care for each other like brothers should and like brothers do, then it makes everyone better. And I believe that is the bond that me and Tendai and Bismarck had. I would sacrifice anything to make them look better, and they did the same. So I think we played about 210 games together, those three guys. And that is something that I'm extremely proud of. I mean, rugby comes and rugby goes, but I think there's one thing that I'm extremely proud of. One is playing in that front row. Those three guys sticking together at provincial level and at international level, and also playing with my brother. We are the first, and up until now, the only set of brothers in the world that played 50 or more tests together, and we played 51 tests together. So, yeah, that well picture is quite special. Thank you very much.
I've got three more. Next one. Jannie, when I look at that, it reminded me of Jannie Du Plessis. He was supposed to be the best handler of a rugby ball. I think he could have slotted in as a 12,
Well,
and this was the only time you passed like that.
If I played 12, I would be more of a running 12. I mean, rugby trainings is quite fun. We used to have like this drop competitions before trainings, and believe it or not, even with this little body of mine, I actually won quite a few of them. So maybe in another life I would have been a 10 if I was quicker.
But that really shows you a ball player, man. Next one. I got a few. I always thought that you were a nice guy. Then I saw that photograph.
Well,
it was against the All Blacks.
It was against the All Blacks. We scrummed them. We walked over them. We planned this scrum, and when we walked over them, Bismarck kicked Andrew Hall. He almost kicked him in the face. He wasn't looking, but I mean, we walked over them and we stepped on them. And after that, it was a bit of emotion coming out there. But I mean, it's no use if I make as if I would not have done it. I mean, to be frank and honest, if I could kick a guy on the field, kick his teeth out, and I could get away with it, I would do it. I swear I would. I don't know whether that's very biblical, but
I think it's Old Testament.
I mean, I've also asked the Lord this. So yes, that sort of part of you, where you compete with people, that you almost there's something in you that you want to win maak nie saak wat dit kos nie. And the Lord reminded me of Samson. Okay, so Samson, he had a few chinks in his armor that many men do, but every time he did something, the Bible says, en die gees van die Here het hom sterk gemaak. So I think what, and I mean, this is not even prepared, but I think to add on to what you said earlier, I think men nowadays, we try to fit in a little box that is, you were not made to fit in a box. Samson took a eselskakebeen, he took a kakebeen van 'n donkey, he bliksemed 1,000 guys dead. I mean, if you just sort of imagine this in a movie, I mean, they could not make a movie out of it, where a guy with blood spattering, he went to the enemy and he killed him. And just before he started, then the Bible says, die gees van die Here het oor Samson gekom en het hom sterk gemaak. So, to add on to that, yes, there is some things that I did in my career where I look back, I think, yeah, what were you thinking? But if I'm really honest, on the field, I would have kicked people, not kicked, but I mean, there was absolute no regret or no, I didn't feel bad for the opposition at all. I wanted to murder all of them.
But Jannie, Jake, Jannie, I think Bakkies Botha set the example. Al Bakkies never move out of the Old Testament, and Jake White tells the story that I forgot his name now, but it's one of the Australian locks once asked Jake, when Bakkies goes down and pray, does he ask for forgiveness for what he's about to do?
Just a quick story. I know we're over time, but
Yeah.
so now we play England. Twickenham's a wonderful stadium. It's incredible. 90,000 people. So you sing Nkosi Sikelele, then you get pumped, and then you sing. When we sing, they play music over the loudspeakers, and then they start God Save the Queen, and then actually they can really sing the English, and there's no music, so they just sing it like without begeleiding. And so now we stand, because now already in the change room we've talked about this English, what we're going to do to them. So now we walk out, you sing the anthems, and I remember Bakkie standing next to me, and I think it's 2008, and they were singing God Save the Queen, and he was talking to himself. He wasn't talking to anybody, but I could hear it. And he said, "Ag Here, jy moet hulle help, want die Queen kan hulle nie nou save nie hoor." And that's very, very true, because as a South African, you're thinking there, here, listen, Lord, save the Queen, please, because nothing can save the English from what's going to happen when we kick off here.
So it's true. This is the next one. We're going to run through them now quickly, Jannie. There's another one.
That is someone, so by the way, a test that we won against England, the next one.
Yeah, there's another one. There's one that I need to show you. It's a little clip. Can we see that last one? Oh, there we go. Sad Jannie. Remember that day? And I think this is what a Springbok should look like once you've lost. Huh?
Yeah, the thing is, what people don't understand is it's as difficult as it is to deal with success. As a sportsman, it's 10 times worse to deal with loss, because and I think that's maybe the enemy that like reminds you of your failures more than your successes. So after a game like this, it honestly takes 3 days. 3 days before you can face yourself. You want to jump in a manhole and lie in dirt because you feel like you've let people down. which in the greater scheme of things is never life and death, but a loss is extremely difficult to deal with, and
To Japan, eh?
so I always say this: I never ever lost against Ireland. I never ever lost against Wales. I never lost against England. I never lost against France. And I've lost against the All Blacks in Australia. But before you become big-headed, I always remind people, but I have also lost against Japan. So,
Jannie, this is the last question, and we've time's up. But in 2016, and I think it was your 16th Test match, you played Italy in East London, and something happened that day that many, many young Du Plessis boys are going to hear for the rest of their lives. Tell us what happened that day.
it's the only try I scored. I wasn't a great try scorer. In 150 games of Super Rugby, I scored 5 tries, but none of them stand. And in my last game, my brother was over the try line 3 times and he didn't pass me the ball. So in 150 Super Rugby games, I never ever scored a try. But I did manage to score a try against Italy, and luckily, fortunately, I did, because can you imagine how much you would have laughed if I'd never scored a Super Rugby try or a Test try?
And Jannie, I actually last night spent a lot of time trying to see that. And it was incredible because the scrummy went sort of a blind and then you did at least 3 yards. so well done. So Jannie, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And Jannie is a man with great ambition, and he sets incredible objectives. And the next one is now the Munga. Are you still practicing for the Munga?
Yes, I am. I maybe bit off a bit more than I can chew. I didn't know what the Munga is when I said yes, but at the end of November, the 29th of November, I'm climbing on a bike and I'm riding from Bloemfontein to Cape Town all the way on dirt roads. So if I don't make it, tell my mom I love her, and my wife and my kids, please.
120 hours. So we're gonna break. We're sorry we went a little bit over, but I'm sure you guys would like to spend another hour. I mean, yeah. We're gonna have a quick break, half an hour. We're gonna have some half an hour. Back at 11, and there's some coffee and snacks. And Jannie, thank you so much for. I know that you came for about an hour. Did you get sandwiches on the way from the West Rand? We really appreciate you. And if you come and move to Cornerstone, we wouldn't have to travel that far, man. Thanks.